Hi all. The goal of this episode of Coding Out Loud is reconstruction. Specifically, we will work towards reconstructing a hand-drawn visualization by Mona Chalabi. Mona is a data journalist who is known for her visualizations as illustrations. The specific visualization we'll attempt to reconstruct is a heat map in the shape of a computer keyboard, where the key colors represent the frequency of letters in the English language. For this exercise, we shifted focus from the original dataset to the frequency of the first letters of all possible words in the popular guessing game Wordle. We will approach the overall goal as a series of subtasks. First, we will work with the original dataset to find the frequency of the first letters of Wordle words. Then, we will create a color scale by extracting colors from the original visualization and assigning frequency cutoff to these colors. Then, we will draw a keyboard using ggplot tool and fill in the colors of the keyboard keys according to the color scale we created. And finally, we will make further stylistic choices like picking a color palette, adding titles, etc. to get closer to the original visualization. To follow along, we recommend starting with the wordle.rmd file in the Coding Out Loud repository. We have provided some starter code in there, which might be particularly helpful if you're new to R or to the type of task you plan to tackle.
Hello, my name is Mona Chalabi from Duke University, and today's Coding Out Loud episode, I am joined by Martha. Martha, do you want to introduce yourself?
Yes. Hi, I'm Martha Boaje. I am a senior here at Duke. Majoring in stats and comp sci.
Wonderful. And Martha was taking my data visualization course last semester. So that's how we met. And we found that we have some similar interests, particularly data illustrations. So we're going to base things off of that today. Before we get started, let me point you to our homepage for Coding Out Loud. So that is bit.ly/coding-out-loud. And you'll see links to each of our episodes. And so the fourth episode is here. In addition to joining us on YouTube, which you're already there probably if you're hearing this, you can follow along on RStudio Cloud. So if you click on this will bring you to an RStudio Cloud project with some of the packages we're going to use pre-installed. Or you can click on see source code if you would like to grab the R Markdown file that we're going to be kind of basing things off of and work locally. What I am going to do is go back and actually get started with the project on RStudio Cloud. So if you also click on this and wait for a second, you'll see an RStudio project popping up. And as this is popping up, let's go ahead and share our inspiration for today. And so what I am going to do is here. And Martha, do you want to tell us a little bit about our inspiration image for the day?
Yeah, of course. So I think I knew that I kind of wanted to do something that involved like recreating a really cool visualization. We had done something like that in the 13 class that I took with Mina, and it was really cool. We started talking a little bit about different visualizations that we could do, and Mina suggested looking at Mona's work, and it was amazing. She has a lot of really cool visualizations. I think this one stuck out to me because of, I don't know, I just thought it was a really interesting way to visualize data with a keyboard with just like letters and a keyboard. And I think originally this is like a heat map, but we're gonna use, or we're gonna find out what different packages we use. But yeah.
Yeah. So for this inspiration image, I think our goal was to maybe stick with the layout. So our goal is to create a keyboard and color in the letters based on some data. Except this particular image was based on kind of keyboard usage for people who type in English. So we're not going to use that same exact data set. We're going to use a different data set, and we're going to try to stick to the colors as well. So we'll revisit the image a couple times during the episode, but let's go back to RStudio Cloud and start with our first task is going to be starting with the data set. So Martha, you have the idea of working with Wordle. Have you played Wordle?
Yes, I have. And yeah, I think it's become kind of like a joyful collective online experience where people share the Wordles, and I thought it'd be cool to like do something with that.
Yeah. Yeah, that sounds great. So if you, so here we have one example. So we looked for some Wordle data sets, and this was one that you found. So let's go there and visit that real quick. I think this is a list of all possible Wordle words. So what we're going to do is we're going to start by getting this data into R. And our goal is to work with the first letters of these words. So we're going to make a kind of a heat map on a keyboard of the first letters of the word. So let's go ahead and get this data into R first. To do that, I'm going to get the URL to a raw version of this data. And let's copy that. And what function could we use to get this into R? So we're going to use the tidyverse. So something from the readr package. What might be an option? Any ideas? It's going to be read something.
I think
try read CSV. Oh yeah, sure.
Read CSV.
So
yeah.
Let's try read CSV. Let's see what happens. Maybe that worked. It looks like that worked. So I'm not a huge fan.
I think we have to set the header. So
yeah, our Markdown printing the output into my document. So I'm going to say chunk output in console. And let's read this one more time. It looks like this may have just worked. So it's not really comma separated values per se, but there's only one column. So we could have probably used something like read dilim as well, maybe. Maybe not. Oh, it says could not guess the delimiter because there weren't any. So let's stick with this. Except, what do you think about this here? What's happening?
Yeah, I think it's using the first word probably in that list as the header instead of creating like a separate header. I think there's an option to specify, give that as a parameter in the read CSV function. I think it's header. Function.
Let's take a look. So over here, I think that's the col names because there are no column names. If we take a look at col names, it says either true or false or a character vector of column names. So what if we say col names equals false? Now it actually puts women back in the mix and gives it a funny name. How about we give it an actual title, like a header title, and there we go. So now our column is named Word, okay? Let's assign this to an object. So we have a data frame with 12,000 something observations, each of which is a word. And so that's our data set. And our first task that we had in mind was to find the first letter of these words, right? So how might we go about doing that?
I think the string R package would be really useful just for manipulating strings. And I know there's a function called string sub that we can use to specify that it selects the first letter.
Okay, so let's take a look at the documentation for str sub. We can give it a string, and then we can give it which kind of position to start at and which position to end at. So since we want the first letter, what do we want those numbers to be? One for each.
2. Oh
yeah. Let's try. Let's try 1 to 2. So I'm going to create a new column in my data set. Maybe let's call it first letter. And we'll say this takes the word and then start at 1 and end at 2. That gives us 2 letters. So let's do 1. So that gives us 1 letter. Now we have our first letters extracted. Shall we take a look to see maybe which ones are most common or something?
Yeah, that sounds good.
Yeah, how would I go about that? I have this saved in a data set now in Wordle.
Yeah, so I think we can select the column with, the variable with the first letters and maybe group them together and count each distinct occurrence of a letter.
Right, so we can use we can do the count of the first letter. So this puts them in alphabetical order. If we want to see which one is the most common, we could add sort equals true. Seems like S by a long stretch is the most common first letter. So when you play Wordle, is there a particular word you start with?
I'm not sure why S. I think maybe because of all the plural words, maybe. I'm not sure.
But those are the first letters, not the last. I really don't know either why S, but
Yeah.
maybe it's a common first letter. So let's pop this out and take a look at all the possibilities. So actually there are 26 entries, so it looks like each letter gets to be first once, but the least common is X, which is, I would have guessed that maybe. I thought about it, and then S is the most common. Okay, so we now have letters and some frequencies, and if we think back to that keyboard diagram, we could sort of color them in based on their frequencies. Maybe let's save this data set as Wordle counts, because we're probably going to want to come back to this data set with the first letter and the number of occurrences again. All right. Our next task is to draw a keyboard. Where shall we get started?
Yeah. So I think Mona's original image is, as I think I mentioned before, is a heat map. I think she did it with a heat map, but there is a really convenient GG keyboard package made by Charla that offers a lot of functionality that we can leverage for this project.
Yeah, let's take a look at this. So, one of the nice things about this ecosystem of our packages is that if you're wanting to do something, maybe someone has already solved the problem for you. So in our case, we were wanting to draw a keyboard to reproduce that image. And look, somebody has written a ggplot2 extension of sorts where the geom is a keyboard or keyboard keys. So it looks like, let's take a look at this. We can draw keyboards. We can give it different colors with a palette. And we can draw different shapes of keyboards, maybe. Yeah. There are different layouts for the keyboards. So generally, when I am trying to kind of get started with a completely new package, I just, will copy one of the pieces of code and try it myself and see if I can just reproduce it. So let's go ahead. We've installed and loaded that package already. So let's go ahead and try running this to see, can we even get the results? Yeah. We kind of just move things around a little bit and maybe zoom out a little bit. Yeah, we can get a keyboard like the one in the documentation. So what do we want to do next? Like drawing a keyboard seems easy.
Yeah, so I think maybe it might make sense. Oh, I think there's a couple of ways we could go. We could try to get kind of the color scheme we want from the original image, or maybe we can think about how we want to distribute, or the distribution of the frequency of each letter. Maybe we set up the boundary so we can have the cutoffs for each different color range.
Right.
Yeah.
So let's go ahead and do that. So let's. So our ultimate goal is to impose those colors onto this keyboard. But since the keyboard drawing part seems easy, let's do a little bit of data prep, right? In order to be able to do that. So to do that, I will add a new R chunk. And let me zoom back in again, just so the font isn't tiny. And let's take a look at this Wordle counts data set. How many color options did the original image have if we wanted to maintain that same color palette? If we were to go to that link.
The original. It has 6.
6, right? Or maybe 7 even. Because there's like a red and then a dark red, right? Okay. Yeah. So would you like to use the same color scheme then?
Yeah, I think it would be cool to use the same color scheme.
Okay, so let's go ahead and do that. What I'm going to do is I am going to use the digital color meter on my computer, which will allow me to hover on the colors. And unfortunately, I don't think that part is being shared since it's only sharing my screen. But our goal is to try to get the hex codes of these colors, right? So one way is if you're like on a Mac, there's a piece of software called Digital Color Meter that's built in that we could use to get the hex codes for each of these 6 color or 7 colors. We could also potentially upload this image somewhere and look for some automated match. But let's go ahead and try to get those colors in. So we have a dark blue, light blue, a green, a yellow, an orange, dark orange, and a red. So do you have a different way of getting these colors? Did you have a different idea for getting them?
I had the same idea because I think in previous classes we've used the color, like the hex picker that you can download for your computer.
Okay, so I will try to get these colors in as quickly as I can. And I apologize that I'm not able to share that portion of my screen because I was having some screen sharing issues and decided to just say, I will only share one tab, not thinking about the fact that I may want to share something other than just my browser window. But I am almost done. Okay, so I've taken some notes that we can pop into our studio and kind of go from there. So let's say our color scale, we're going to use these hex codes. And R will actually happily paint things if you give it a hex code. So that's kind of neat. And what else do we want to do now that we have our colors?
Yeah, I think the next step is based on the Wordle counts data set, trying to determine the cutoff for each color range. Maybe we can look at the summary statistics and see roughly what they are for the distribution.
Okay, that sounds good. So let's call this, these are our color options. And then next we want to create like a color scale, really. And we might want to do something like maybe summarize the minimum, maximum. What else would be useful? The mean. The standard
maybe
deviation, maybe.
Yeah.
If these are the four kind of summary statistics we want, let's say I want the minimum of n, I want the mean of the n variable, the standard deviation of the n variable, and the maximum of the n variable. Our values range from 16 to 1560 with a mean of 498 and a standard deviation of 349. The min and max are like helpful, but I feel like I don't know how to come up with a color scale necessarily based on the mean and standard deviation. Maybe some quantiles.
Yeah. Maybe we can look at like the 20th, 40th, 60th, maybe, to get
Okay.
what it looks like.
So let's do the 20th, and you said 40, 60, maybe also 80?
Yes, that's good.
Okay. 70, 80. All right, so we have some cutoffs that we can use. I feel like it would be helpful to visualize this data, like before we put it on the keyboard, like just as a numerical variable, just to take a look at a picture of the distribution.
Yeah.
What do you say?
That would be helpful. Yeah, that sounds good.
So
maybe
we can do Wordle count. And then maybe let's just visualize the distribution of n. So I'm going to put that as my x aesthetic, and let's just make a histogram. Get better bandwidth. Okay. So that 1500 one, the S is really an outlier. So this is the distribution of our n's. We might also do a distribution or take a look at the first letter and then the n and make a like a bar plot with a geom col.
Yeah.
And this tells us what like the letters are like. So if we want to pick some cutoffs for these different colors that we have, what might those be? Let's take some notes.
Okay, so
here are the summary statistics from before.
I think it might make sense to just have, well, if we do the 1500 as like that red in the original image as like anything above that, that might just be one data point, I think, right? Because only S has.
Yeah.
So maybe we can
do. I think that's okay because that's clearly like something that should maybe stand out. So let's do that.
Yeah.
The dark red will be the really high one. Okay.
Yeah. So anything over 1,000 counts, it looks like, because it's the only one that's.
Yeah, sure. We can do that. Anything over 1,000. Yep.
And then for the dark orange, so the 80th quantile is about 736. The previous one is 595. Maybe Yeah, that
Try
sounds good to me.
if we do this 325 from the 40th, 189, cut off here, and then maybe dark blue will just be all the other keys, like anything like the non-letters could be the dark blue.
Yeah. Okay, and then we can make that light blue 16 for everything.
Oh yeah, that makes sense. Let's see, what if we did, I'm gonna try something. So we have this bar plot here. Let's put a horizontal line. So that's a geom H line. At least one of these lower ones, and we can play around with it to see what might be one that gives us more than just that one observation. So we'll say y-intercept is equal to, if we do 16, y-intercept. So that will just capture the x. If we do something like 30, that's still not capturing anything other than that. 40, nope. 100?
Looks like around 60 maybe.
Maybe around,
that captures more.
If we do something like 80, it might capture the Q and the X. I don't know. We could go either way. We could make it 16. Let's make this 20 or something like that. And then it will just make the X the really light blue. Does that sound good?
Yeah, that sounds good.
Okay. All right. So we have some colors, some cutoffs. And now we need to grab a keyboard and start adding these colors. So how might we want to go about that?
Yeah, so I was looking at she was reading me for a keyboard, and there are different keyboards you can specify, and I think maybe trying to find one that's closer to Mona's original image.
Okay, I think that sounds like a good idea.
I can specify a Mac keyboard, and I think,
Sorry, say it again. Which one?
The one that looks closest to me is a 60%, I think, zoom in. So it zooms into like 60% of the keyboard, and that gets you all the letters plus a few different non-letter keys. So you can specify that as the first parameter in the GG keyboard function.
Oh, like this one here?
Yeah.
60%?
Yeah, that keyboard.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's go ahead and let me just remind myself what, let's go ahead and copy this. But let me also just remind myself. Yeah, you're right. That does indeed look just like the one there. So let's go back to our Studio Cloud and copy that. Okay, well, that's a good starting point. Now what do we do?
Okay, so I think we're also going to specify, I think we can specify a palette, but it's interesting because I think we're not going to use any of the colors that the palette would, because we're changing the color scheme entirely. So the most neutral palette, just pick something that we can work off is the magic one. So we can pass in the keyboard palette. We can change the one that's specified right now.
So it looks like keyboard palette is the function that gives us the options, maybe. You said the magic one is the most kind of neutral?
Yeah, it looks the most neutral.
Let's start with that. Okay, right. Great.
Yeah.
And now what do
Okay,
we want
and
to
then
do?
so I think we might have to do a little bit more data manipulation, but I can. So the way we can fill in the different colors we want is you can there's like a highlight keys function, and even though it's not specified within the source code, you can still pass in a fill parameter, which like will fill in the color that you
Oh.
wanted. So that
Okay.
So I think
Okay. So
there are
for the
multiple ways you
various
can.
keys. No, go ahead. No, that sounds great. Go ahead.
Yeah. So what we can do is we can pass in like the example code where there are three different keys specified. So we can specify all the keys we want to highlight and provide, and then also provide like a vector of the colors we want. So I'm trying to think about the best way to do that because then it's going to fill them in for us based on the color.
I see. Okay, that
I'm
sounds good.
thinking
So
maybe
let's run this sample code. But this says, so this is the color. So we want to do like fill of, so what you're saying is if I did red, blue, and green, maybe.
Yeah.
So that's how it fills those up. Okay.
Yeah. And you also have to pass in an alpha value so you can still see the letters.
Okay. There we go. Okay, so we want something like this.
So we can play around
and
with
maybe
it.
We don't want the color. Oh no.
The original, like the yellow outline.
Yeah, is there a way to there we go. Oh, it needed it to be British spelling. Okay. All right, great. So we'll do something like this. You're right. What does this do? Adjust text color, because it was in the original thing. Let's take it out to see if it looks good enough for us. Right, so that was just like changing, it seems like the... So this is a good starting point for us. Now we need to bring our data and our colors in, right?
Yeah.
If we want to do this, what shall we do?
Yeah, I think, okay, so I think we can add, the first idea I had was we can add a column to our Wordle count data frame where we pass in, like we can add a color variable where we pass in the color based on the cutoffs we decided. And then pass that into the highlight keys function.
Okay, that sounds good. And so basically, depending on the value of the n, we'll define the color, right? So since there are many options, maybe we can use a case when statement for doing that?
Yeah.
Okay. So we do a case when, and basically what we'll say is if n is something or other, make the color something. So if n is, equal to 0, make the color this. Basically, that's what we're saying, right?
Yes.
And then if n is less than 20, lining these up, make the colors this. I wonder if there's a less tedious way of doing this. So let's bring these over. What I'm going to do is I'm going to line these things up so they're a bit easier to copy and paste in a column. And so we did the first two, so I'm going to start here. Let's bring them over here. And with the Alt key, I can write on multiple lines. And let's bring them over. Oh, what happened?
Oh, my.
Okay, cut them out. Place them on the other side. to the end. Say we're going to want a comma at the end. All right, and then we need to figure out our conditions, right?
Yes.
So in this case, we're looking for n is greater than 20 and less than or equal to 189, right? And let's make this a less than or equal to as well. Okay, and then here it's going to be n is greater than 189 and n is less than or equal to 325. So we're just keep carrying these around. And is less than or equal to 595. This is less than 736 or less than or. Did we do this right? We wanted the last cutoff to be. Because the last one should have been greater than 1,000, right? So maybe we needed to like. So if this is going to be greater than 1,000, maybe just like this.
So, I think we also can just not specify at all and do the true to capture all the other cases, but we can also be explicit about it.
Oh, you're right. Yeah, we could do that. Okay, so let's try this because ultimately we have only 26 letters that we need to look through, right? So we can so what I'll do is I'll pop this into the viewer. We have some NA, so we need to worry about these ones that are between 595 and 920. These should have greater than signs. There we go. That looks right. Hopefully.
Yeah, that looks right.
Okay. So another thing is these letters are capital, but our letters are small. What if I do M? Does my thing? So I need my letters to be capital. So another thing I need to do is convert these to capital letters for the first letter. Yes. So let's go ahead and do that. How can I convert the letters to capital? I will close out this case when, and then I'll say the first letter is something of the first letter. So we just need to find a function that takes a letter and capitalizes it.
Yeah.
Probably in the string R packet.
String R has one.
Yeah.
Probably like to cap or something like that.
STR2, you said? STR to upper? I think that might work.
Yes, that looks right.
Okay, so let's give this a try. Okay. Now that seems to work. Then save our data frame of Wordle counts. And then what we're going to do is in the highlight keys function, so this was our keys argument. This was our fill argument. This was our alpha, and this was our color. So our keys will now come from this Wordle counts data set, right?
Yeah.
Let's go ahead and
Oh,
open
we didn't
this
save
one.
it back, I think.
Yeah, I think so. Here we go. Okay. So Wordle counts first letter is our keys. And then what's our fill is
Color.
Wordle counts color. You can tell why I made the color fill mistake before. Let's give this a try. Okay, so we have maybe the alpha can be like a little less. But look at that. Shouldn't have the. Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I think, yeah, I was waiting to, yeah. So I think the Wordle counts is only the letter that is considered the other keys on there. So yeah, I was trying to think of a non-tedious way to do it. We might have to just add those rows into Word accounts. I'm trying to think of how to do that. Maybe we can.
So the reason why this is happening, I'm trying to understand, is in Wordle counts, I wonder, do we have. So we have them as characters. And S is the first one. They seem to like not go in the same order or something like that. Isn't that right?
The color mappings.
Mm-hmm. Because in our data frame of Wordle counts,
Yeah.
S should have been the only dark red, but
Yeah.
instead Z is the dark red.
It's Z. Yeah.
It's almost like it keeps going in this order as opposed to, right? And then the last one is the P.
Yeah.
So it seems like the letters are not being mapped properly.
Yeah, it looks like that's
That's really bizarre. So let's take a look to see how highlight keys works. What I'm going to do is I'm going to write out the function itself and see if we can figure out. So this comes from the key data, which takes the keyboard and takes the map. It's somehow and adds the fill color. But it kind of just doesn't. So let's try this with only one of them, okay?
Yeah.
So
because it worked when we just
if the key was S and we have this really dark color one, it was doing it correctly, right?
Yeah.
So we know that this is doable then. Now let's add another one and see what happens. So I'm going to do, this is S, and now let's add another color. So let's say C is going to be this color. It appears to me like
it switched the colors.
The color has changed. It switched the colors, didn't it?
Yeah,
it
did.
Switched the order of the colors. And now that's okay. Let's add another one. One that's a different color. N is this color. Oops. And now it switched them again. But if I put this first, and does that work? S. No, the order is like
yeah.
Weird. So let's do this because I can't remember the color name. So we know that. What was our color names that we had? Red, dark orange, and orange. Okay. This is what we want them to be. There's some orange for or something. Is it dark orange? And then does this work? Okay.
Oh.
I think it alphabetizes them. Is that true? It takes the key. If you alphabetize the keys.
C.
And do this.
Oh, it is.
Let's give them, let's make this pink to make it a little bit more obvious. Indeed, if you put them in alphabetical order, I think it works.
Yeah.
So what if we put our stuff in alphabetical order? In Wordle counts, what if we then arrange by first letter so that our Wordle counts data set is in alphabetical order, right?
Mm-hmm.
Would that help? Let's see. No.
No.
No, it still didn't. I wonder what it's doing now.
Yeah.
There is some sort of pattern that's happening. So now I became the only, the soul, and I is. Yeah, that's very bizarre. Let's see. So these are the first letters and they're in alphabetical order. And these are the colors that are matched to them. I wonder if it doesn't like repeat colors somehow. Let's take a look.
Oh, because we're
in the one that we are playing with. Yeah, see how when I have, because this is still in alphabetical order, but now it made the X be the red, C be the pink. Maybe it is not so much alphabetical order, but in the order that the letters are on this.
On the keyboard. Okay.
Let's try that. So C, X, C, B. I think it is the case that if we put the letters in the order that they are in this, so in the order that they appear, so maybe there's something like it's a factor and not a string. So we don't want them in alphabetical order. We want them in the order they appear in a QWERTY keyboard.
The keyboard.
So we need to figure out how letters appear on a QWERTY keyboard. Well, we should be able to find that. I mean, let's see, QWERTY keyboard layout. maybe letter order. There has to be
Yeah.
a place where we can find the letters in order. How? Letter order list, maybe. I just want a place where I can copy and paste these from.
Copy it, yeah.
I bet maybe it's in that package somewhere. Maybe we can find it somewhere in the
original
package. Let's
GG keyboard package.
Yeah. Layout. The code. So I'm looking for it in the code. Maybe like the readme here. Maybe somewhere here. Nope. Ah. This is the steno keyboard. I wonder if there is a... Was this the 60% that we were using?
Yeah, it was.
It's this order, right?
Yes.
This order here.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So
it might be helpful to copy.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry. Oh, I was gonna say it might be helpful to just copy every key, including the non-letter ones, because we have to go in and fill them in anyways. I think.
Oh yeah, that's true. That's true. You're right. Okay. So so let's go ahead and get the link to this. Okay, so let's go ahead and get the link to this. And before I lose that, I'm going to take a note of this. Link to key layout data. Is there a way to... Let's take a look at this GG keyboard function quickly to see. Right. Are we going to like highlight each key basically so that some of them can be the dark blue? Not sure. Let's read this data in.
I think we can also specify a palette that matches and then just highlight the keys we have, and that would just leave all the other ones.
Right.
Like the colors we chose.
Right.
Yeah.
That sounds good. That sounds good. Okay. All right. So I'll call this keys and we'll read this CSV file in. Did we read it in? Go ahead and read that in. And then they are, so these are the alphanumeric ones, I think, from the key type. So if I do keys, filter, key type equals alphanumeric, and then let's take a look at this. There are a few others that we may not want necessarily, but that's okay.
Yeah.
Oh, or maybe we can say key label because we just want the is in. Remember, there's a data set in R that is just the letters. Okay, so this gives us the order we want stuff in. So what we can say is that maybe we can call this key order is this. Right, this is giving us the order that we need, and really we can just select the key. We don't really need the other variables. And now that we have things in the order we want, could we bring in the color data from the Wordle count dataset?
Yeah, we can try. We do that, or we can do factor reorder, I think, and then just reorder those keys based on. I'm not sure which one's
Yeah, we could do
simpler.
that. We could do that, but then that would give us a factor variable, which I'm a bit worried then GG keyboard will not like
Keys,
and will
yeah.
want to string, right? Maybe let's try to
Yeah.
keep it as character. So we could try to join. So do a left join of the Wordle count data, and then we'll say by key and first letter. Oh. First letter, did I not say that right?
Joint columns once it's present.
Join columns must be present in data. Yes, I believe they are.
Maybe.
What do you think might be the issue?
I think it might be by key equals first letter. Maybe. Let me look.
Oh, yeah, you are right. You're absolutely right. Okay. So now our key order data, which is weirdly named for what it is, maybe let's call this Wordle counts ordered. That's a better name for what that is. And then let's try to bring these were our test things, but let's try to grab this. That didn't work for us before and try it with Wordle counts ordered. It's not called first letter anymore, maybe. It's called key.
Key.
I think we did it.
That looks right.
Yes, that looks right. Yeah. Let's take a look at this keyboard palette. And it says that you can do like a custom something.
Yeah, you can.
Palettes have the following fields. Color of keyboard. I wonder if we could do something like, so let's do something crazy like red here. I don't know. Maybe that's something that we would need to figure out another time. But something we would want to do is try to fill in the color into those other keys, right?
Yeah.
So that they could be that dark blue that we had as opposed to the light blue.
Yeah. I'm trying to see if there's quickly any one of them that has palette Vermilo kind of has blue colors as a background. Maybe that can quickly.
Let's see which one. Vermilo, this one here. Let's try that. Yeah, kind of. It
Some
gave
of them
us
are
the
pink.
as well. Yeah. So I think what we would want to do to finish this up is create a custom palette where maybe working off of Magic or something like that, where the keys are filled in with that dark blue that we had grabbed. And then this way the rest of it would match it. And then we would change, it looks like from the help, both background and the keyboard such that they are basically that blue. But I'm having a hard time figuring out how I would do a kind of custom.
A custom code.
Yeah. So it seems like based on the palette, so we could define a palette where, let's try this. Custom pal could be a list of maybe.
Oh, yeah.
It's like background is blue, then keyboard is blue. I wonder if this would work.
Yeah. It's in the source. The source code has the magic one, so I think we can like just change the background color of the magic.
Oh, I see. Right. So we could maybe just change the background color of one of those and overwrite this keyboard palette function and overwrite one of them to be that. All right. Well, that seems like a good challenge to leave things off with. I think we made good progress. The order certainly got me, but we were able to figure that out. So I think that's a win. And if folks wanted to really match the original image we started with, there's just like one more thing left to do.
Yeah.
All right. Are you happy with the result?
I am happy with the results. It was really fun too.
Yeah, great. Well, I really enjoyed it as well. Thanks for joining today and have a good rest of your day.
In this video, we worked on recreating a keyboard-themed heat map originally drawn by Mona Chalabi using data from Wordle. To get the first letters of the words, we used a stringr package, and to draw the keyboard, we used the GG keyboard package. Along the way, we made use of other functions from the tidyverse for both data manipulation and data visualization. One challenge we encountered was figuring out how the GG keyboard package assigned colors to the keys of the keyboard. We used a trial and error approach to test our hypothesis for how this works, and also dived into the source code for the package to look for clues. Finally, we debugged our issue and ran out of time before we could add some final stylistic touches to make our visualization look more like our original inspiration. You can pick up where we left off and bring things to the finish line. Thank you for spending time with us, and see you next time.